What's going on, you guys? This is your boy RBG, aka the Random Black Gamer, and today I'm gonna bring you a quick video on something that you might be excited about, and that is the announcement that Paramount Pictures is now in productions on a Transformers movie, a live-action Transformers movie at that, which is something we haven't gotten since 2023 with Transformers Rise of the Beast. As you guys are aware, things have been a bit shaky, and I would even go so far as to say unstable when it comes to these live-action Transformers films. But Paramount looks to turn that all around with a key component that they've been missing for years, and we're going to talk about it today. But before we do that, I want to ask you guys to do me the biggest favor and like this video. Yeah, I know it's a bit annoying getting this request at the very beginning of a video before you watch it in its entirety, but YouTube's algorithm encourages it. So if you rock with your boy, and you know I'm going to bring you that awesome content, then smash that like button. But if by any chance you just so happen to be new to this channel and you feel like I wasted 10 minutes of your time that you can't get back, then feel free to retract that like and give it a dislike. Just rate the video. But yeah guys, as I was saying, Paramount was teasing a lot of things at this year's CinemaCon, which included Call of Duty, more Star Trek, and definitely more Transformers, which is a franchise that seems like it's been lacking on Energon nowadays. Because if you haven't noticed, it's not exactly the big box office juggernaut it used to be. The films lack a clear, concise direction on where they want to go, and it seems like Paramount is actually losing faith on the franchise. But recently at this year's CinemaCon, they made it crystal clear that they're still investing in Transformers as a theatrical property, even though they have yet to state which film is next in the chamber or the director that's going to be attached to it, which seems to be a reoccurring trend nowadays because for whatever reason it seems like they just can't keep a director to save their lives. Like recently I did a video covering this documentary that was provided by this Australian TV show called Icons on Earth, where the people that were behind some of these Transformers films went more into detail about some of the things going on, particularly with Michael Bay and the executive producer of the later films, Lorenzo di Bonaventura. And apparently this was a pretty equal relationship we had here. We had Michael Bay doing his thing in the director's chair while Lorenzo simply monitored things. But according to this documentary, he never got in Michael Bay's way, because for one, Michael Bay was already an established director, and two, Michael Bay was making so much money at the box office with these movies that they didn't want to change what they thought was a winning formula. But eventually people grew tired of that formula, and Michael Bay would ultimately leave the franchise, opting to work only as an executive producer on future films. Once the keys to the kingdom was given to a new director, that's when things got a little fishy, because Lorenzo di Bonaventura got more hands-on with each project, and he would have the final say-so on what went into them, which clashed with the director's original vision, and it would ultimately result in Travis Knight choosing not to return for the sequel to Bumblebee. And the rest is history, guys. I don't want to beat a dead horse and talk about this over and over and over again, but all of these movies have been a former shell of themselves. They aren't performing like they used to, and it seems like Paramount knows this, and they are desperately trying to figure out what direction they want to take these in. As I mentioned before, Lorenzo, he seems adamant about trying to say that these movies are all connected to the original Bayverse canon, even though it has so many inconsistencies, which isn't saying much because the Bayverse also had its fair share of canonical inconsistencies, which started with Transformers The Last Night, which was going to segue into their expanded cinematic universe. Although we didn't get standalone films for other characters like Bumblebee did, I honestly feel like that plan is still in motion and they're just figuring out the right time to execute it. Although Bumblebee and Transformers Rise of the Beast technically exist in their own continuity, there are a few elements that kind of connect them to the Bayverse. They just haven't went all in with the Bayisms because they're still trying to gauge the audience and see what they want. Do they want all the explosions that come with Michael Bay's works, or do they want something fresh and new? But it looks like they're going to be going back to the original formula that Michael Bay introduced, because it was reported that he will be returning to work on a film, which is more than likely the project that Paramount says is in production now. And I know a lot of you are probably asking yourself, but what about that Transformers G.I. Joe crossover? Because we did see a teaser to that in Transformers Rise of the Beast. We most likely would have gotten that movie next if Transformers Rise of the Beast did good at the box office, but since it didn't and the universe has yet to catch its footing, they're gonna go back to what they think works with Michael Bay, and they can just pick up where they left off with Transformers The Last Night, where we see the Autobots leaving Earth and heading back to Cybertron after stopping Quintessa. I'm pretty sure the question you guys have is how exactly are they going to restore the planet back to its normal self, because it had pretty much been drained of all its Energon after Optimus launched the cube to Earth, not to mention that they severed the planet in two after destroying the space bridge that was used to summon it into Earth's atmosphere. And to be honest with you guys, I don't think Michael Bay ever thought that through, because he was just making these movies anytime Paramount told him that they wanted him to come back. But if the Autobots were going to restore the planet back to its normal self, then they would have to do so by the way of the Matrix of Leadership, which is an item that they haven't shown in the movies since Transformers Dark of the Moon. And funny enough, it was the the item that they were actually going to introduce in the first 2007 film, but ended up changing it to the Allspark because they wanted to avoid confusing fans of the Matrix movies that just so happen to have the same name. But they would later lean more into the lore in Transformers Revenge of the Fallen and actually utilize the Matrix to revive Optimus and later revive Sentinel Prime in Dark of the Moon. And the thing that they never really mentioned about the Matrix in these movies is that it does house the essence of Primus himself, which was originally the core of Cybertron. And just like it can be used to resurrect Primes such as Optimus and Sentinel, it can also be used to restore the planet back to its normal state, kinda like how it was used in Transformers 1 once Orion Pax obtained the Matrix of Leadership and became Optimus Prime, and he would use the Matrix to restore the Energon to the planet. And that's if Michael Bay chooses to acknowledge all the things that he left off with, because as I mentioned earlier, he always goes into these movies with no clear direction, and he always implements something that's going to catch people's eye, whether it be Devastator from Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, the Worm from Transformers Dark of the Moon, Grimlock from Transformers Age of Extinction, or Dragonstorm from Transformers The Last Knight. You can always count on Bay to implement something like that because he knows that that's going to be the big thing in the promotions that everybody's going to be curious about, which is basically marketing one-on-one, which is something that he knows all about. But anyways, something else that you can expect is a new roster of characters as well as new designs for the ones from the previous films, because even though this is a movie franchise, we have to keep in mind that it's connected to a toy brand, which is Hasbro, and anytime they come out with a new movie, they want to make sure that the toys are reflected in that, so they come up with new designs for characters such as Optimus and Megatron and Bumblebee. And the designs we had in Transformers Age of Extinction and The Last Knight were kind of played out, not to mention that fans didn't like the humanoid aesthetic that they featured. They wanted them to go more back to the original designs, which featured more car parts and were actually made to transform. So I truly believe that Michael Bay needs to take these things into consideration and come up with a happy medium, come up with that perfect balance where the Transformers are proportionate but they feature visible car parts. But anyways, the last thing I want to talk about is the returning cast from the Bayverse, because if you've been following any of the news, then you may have heard them say that they've been in talks with Michael Bay on an undisclosed project, and that project is most likely going to be this movie. We've seen Tyrese Gibson mention how he's talked to Michael Bay over the phone, as well as Josh Duhamel, who are most known for playing the characters of Epps and Lennox from the first 3 Transformers movies. And then we would later see Shia LaBeouf alluding to the fact that he would be returning after he took pictures with Peter Cullen, as well as had the tagline "roll out" on the photo. And it seemed like these things were going to actually manifest until a big controversy happened with Shia LaBeouf, which was his recent arrest in New Orleans. And according to industry insiders, this may have put a damper on things, and we might not even see Shia LaBeouf make a return as Sam Witwicky, which is a bummer because a lot of fans, they never really grew to like some of the newer characters that were introduced, such as Cade Yeager, because it seemed like Sam was written off too abruptly, and it would be nice to know what he was up to during the events of Transformers Age of Extinction and The Last Knight. But I have a nagging suspicion that Michael Bay and Paramount will proceed with the original plans and bring him back once things cool off. In regards to when the movie will be releasing, we could be looking at a 2027 release date or a 2028 release date, but they can't go any further than that because apparently if they don't release something by 2028, they'll lose the rights to produce any Transformers movies, so there is that. But anyways, that's all I got for you guys. Since Paramount has flat out said that they have begun production on this movie, you can expect to hear more news from them and Michael Bay himself, who will more than likely be doing most of the heavy lifting when it comes to promotions and marketing, because like I said, he has a background in commercials and music videos, and he edits all of his own trailers, which are going to be the secret recipe to getting people to watch this movie, because that's one of the things that was missing from the previous films, not having that keen eye to deliver something that's going to get people hyped to come see the movie. But with all that said, what are your thoughts on this? Do you feel like Michael Bay is going to deliver in regards to all the things that he has in the past, or do you feel like Bayverse fatigue has reached an all-time high? Let me know in the comment section below. As always, I ask you like or dislike the video. It doesn't have to be a thumbs up, it can be a thumbs down. But if you really enjoyed the video, it would help me out tremendously if you shared it with all your friends and followers on all the different social media outlets. Sharing is caring. But once again, this was RBG signing out on another video. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.